So let's say, for instance, you made a bunch of changes to your models, you made a bunch of migrations, and now you're getting errors nonstop. Like you can't actually change these errors. This is why it's so important to test locally before you bring it to a live server. That is, before you bring it online in a real place, right? This is actually how I should have designed the model itself from the get-go. I shouldn't have ever added shortcode later. Now, of course, I did that so you guys could see what's going on, but realistically, you're going to want to think through this model as much as possible. So if I did run into some errors, then I would want to do some things in the migrations to actually make some changes. But that's long form, and it's going to take a lot to actually get there. So I'm going to show you what you would do if you ran into big errors. Now let's actually think through all of the models that we want. I want to have a timestamp in here for sure. So I'll do models.datetime field. This is another field that has the potential for automatically creating the value. So if I did auto now equals to true, that means it's every time the model is saved, it's going to set that time value. There's another one that we could do, and that's auto now add. So when model was created, so that's a true timestamp here. This is actually more of like when it was last updated, right? So that's the field of updated. But those are the differences in there. Now, if you put false for both of those, so this will be I'll just say empty date time or empty date time. We'll do models.date time field, and that we would just do auto now add equals to false, and auto now equals to false as well. So auto now and auto now add false. That's an empty date time. That means that actual date right there we can set on our own in whether it's in the admin or somewhere else, we can actually set this one. These two we cannot set. They set automatically. Okay, so those are the things that I'll definitely want to have. There might be other sort of things that I want, like analytics, like clicks, the number of clicks this has been clicked on. But I'm actually not going to put that inside of this model. All this model is going to do is have our original URL and then our shortcode. We'll have other stuff, but that's pretty much it. And then the last time is updated. That is, if we made any changes to it. And then, of course, when it was added into the database for our timestamp. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I'm going to run my migrations. So make migrations. And notice it says it's add the field timestamp. We're going to have to do all of this stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and quit this. And I'm going to do something that if you run into those errors, what do? Well, this is what I do, especially when I'm testing. When you're going live and you're building a real production and you're doing stuff like that, what I'm about to tell you is not necessarily going to work for that. But it does work when you're testing, and this is really important, is because we're testing, we can do this. I'm coming into the shortener, and I'm going to go ahead and delete the initial file. I'm going to delete the second migration and the third migration. I can also delete other things in here, or I could even delete this entire folder if I wanted. But now that I've got rid of all of those migration files, I can go in and actually delete the database file as well. So I went ahead and deleted that database file. And now I'm back in the terminal. I'm going to do Python manage.py make migrations. And notice it did make migrations for shortener. So if we go back into that migrations folder, it's showing us now the initial. This is now showing us all of the fields. It's a little different than what we did before, but it's now showing us all the fields. And now we can do Python manage.py migrate. And this does all the migrations. And notice it's showing everything else too, right? Because we completely deleted our database. So that also means that we're going to want to make a new super user, Python manage.py, create super user. And we're going to do CFE and hello at teamcfe.com. And then I'm going to do learn code 2016, learn code 2016, and we've got our password. Okay, cool. So now we're back to kind of square one with the database. If I actually refresh in here, or not refresh, but just go back to that, I'm gonna have to log back in because I actually changed the session. I deleted all the sessions. I deleted everything related to Django, so I have to go back in and log in again. And notice it's saying page not found for that particular URL. That's because we haven't created any yet, at least in this new database. It's now empty. If I go to add a new URL, notice it's showing URL in shortcode. So I can make CFE blog again, and we'll just see CFE blog is the shortcode as well. We'll save and continue. And now I have that new URL in there, and I've got this new item. A lot of things are looking good here. So that's great. That is it as far as what happens when you need to make drastic changes to your models and you run into errors with migrations. If you have any questions on this, let us know. Of course, this is not going to work again. It's not going to work on production. It's really good for local live testing. And if you delete those migrations 1,000 times, that's okay. This is really just a history of the changes you've made to the models. So if you deleted that history and deleted the database that thinks that history exists, that's okay. Now, the other side of it is if all of your migrations were up to date, that is, I actually did create all of these things, you totally could run that again, and then all you would do, so for example, if I did keep those other migrations and then I deleted everything, I could just do Python manage.py migrate, and I could say the app name, which is in our case shortener, and then you can do -- fake. So that is a fake migration. So that what that means is if I didn't delete all of those files and I did the migration and I did all the migrations, right? So if I'm up to date on migrations and then I deleted the files, that is, the database knows that this exists in the backend, but these migration files are different, then I can run this fake. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, definitely try it out on your own. Play around with these migrations as much as you can so you get a better understanding of it. It's really hard to give you an example of everything because there's a lot of things that can happen. But the main thing here is I've now shown you how you can make changes to models, and I can show you worst case scenario, what happens if your migrations get all out of whack. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.